Hey, friends and family, thanks for tuning in to this week's Thursday Night Thought. This week's thought is about a metaphor of the stars and how darkness is the canvas of the stars, and the metaphor that this represents is the darkness in our own lives. And if you think about it, the stars really wouldn't fully embody their purpose unless the darkness was present. And the same is true with the darkness of our own lives. And so the message I received this week was very powerful, and it brought up a story that I want to share with you of really amazing healing. And I think that it's a story that you're going to enjoy a lot. So the message I received is this: whatever environment you are in, no matter how dark, you have been placed there with reason. You are not a martyr or a victim. You are a healer, being empowered with great strength, love, compassion, and trust. Your charity is not of earthly capacity, but of spiritual, infinite possibilities. Therefore, trust this is drawing you closer to who you are. And with the measure you give, you shall receive. First and foremost, this message, what really hit me this week about this message is sometimes when we're in a dark situation, and that darkness can represent whatever it means for you. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's confusion, maybe it's not being able to see clearly into the future, maybe it's a toxic relationship or toxic environment at work. Whatever that darkness represents, that darkness is there for a reason, and you've been placed there for a reason. So anytime that we find ourselves asking why, we already have the answer. We're there for a reason. And so the message went on to state that the reason is because you are not a martyr and you are not a victim of this dark environment. You are a healer. So I want to share with you a very personal story. Many of you know I've shared a lot of my personal stories, and you know that I, had a failed business that my husband and I were contemplating going through divorce years ago, that my husband and I have been through a lot. Our business almost failed. We've going through bankruptcy. We've been through a lot together. And last year, one of the most challenging things that we went through actually had to do around our relationship. And the part that was the darkest is that we weren't communicating to one another. We were actually taking our frustrations of what was going on with the failed business, with the irritations that we had with one another, and we were taking it outside of our marriage. And it didn't really hit us as to how dark things had become until my 17-year-old stepdaughter confronted us and asked us if we could go to counseling. And the reason she wanted to go to counseling is because she didn't feel comfortable anymore talking to the two of us because we were so antagonistic with one another. And she was concerned that we were going to get a divorce. And I remember that was a big wake-up moment for me, because I was upset that things would come to that type of head. But it was such a dark period of time for me, because I had just gone through this failure of a business, and a lot of it was being blamed on me, but I felt like I had made decisions with my husband together, and there was just a lot of frustrations, resentments, and anger that had built up. And so this was kind of that catalyst moment of bringing it all the darkness to a head. And at that time in my life, I had to make a decision. I had to really look within and decide who I am. And what I realized is that who I am is a lover, is someone who is filled with love and compassion for other people. But yet I couldn't bring the same love and light into my own relationship. And so there was a little bit of an integrity issue there for me. And so in order to really get to the depth of who I am, I had to step back and say, can I be this person who I feel like I am to the world? Can I be that same person in this very dark environment? Can I tap in to that healer, that lover, when I have so much anger and so much bitterness and so much resentment? And it started by just making some small changes. First change was my family felt like I was spending too much time on Facebook. And so I let them know that that was no longer going to be a priority to me, to me, and put them as the first priority. And so I really structured my time on Facebook. I also had told my husband that it was really important that we stop talking so negatively about one another outside of the doors of our home. In fact, even during that situation, I had had a few friends that I had had these emotional connections with because of that, and that just made things a lot more difficult. So I stopped those relationships. I stopped that gossip. I stopped that darkness. And I had to get back to the truth of who I am, which is that lover, that person that forgives and has so much love and light, yet I wasn't bringing it to my own family. So it's very humbling. But how do you bring love and light to a dark environment when you feel that it's the environment that's causing the issue in the first place? Well, the whole point that this is basically saying is that as a healer, as someone who brings love and light to situations, it comes from charity. It comes from saying, okay, I'm not going to expect something from somebody else, but I'm going to give something that really I don't even have right now. I am going to have to call on it from a greater power, because earthly, I don't have it in me. But I knew the possibility of tapping into that love, that compassion. And I just got on my knees and I prayed every day, okay, allow me to give to my family. Allow me to give to my husband where I have so much anger and resentment and frustration. And that's when the doors started to open. I went back to work with my husband to show him that our family is my priority, and that our dreams, that our relationship was so important to me. And as I did that, and I have to explain, one of the reasons why it was so dark in that moment is because I was contemplating that divorce. And so there was this experience of, if I gave up my time on Facebook and creating a following and all these different kinds of things, that I was gonna shoot myself in the foot. But it was so ridiculous because you can't hold on to both worlds. You can't be angry and bitter and resentment in this dark environment and shine love and light at the same time. It doesn't work. So I had to surrender that wasn't really what I desired. And so as I tapped into what it is that I really desired with my family, doors opened and I became more alive inside. I became more of who I am at the center, the core of my being. That resentment started to fall away. That anger started to fall away. That trust in one another started to be built up again. And I can tell you that miracles occurred in our relationship over the last year that are only attributed to the fact that I took a different view of how I could give to that relationship, even when I wasn't feeling it, because it wasn't coming from me. And as I tuned into that source, more of that source was poured into me, and more of that light was brought out into our relationship. That today we don't talk about each other the way that we used to a year ago. Today we have respect and admiration for one another because we've done the deep work. And guess what? I didn't have an expectation that he was going to have to change. I wasn't a victim of these dark circumstances, and I wasn't going to play martyr. I knew that if I could just make those changes, as I saw the light pouring through me, that was the miracle. That was the strength. That was the compassion. That was the trust. That's the stuff that we can put our faith and hope into. And as I did that, our marriage has healed in so many ways. And guess what? Even without spending that time, my business has grown and doors have opened. And I haven't had to do anything but be who I am at the core. And that is, we are all healers when we bring in that love, that light, that compassion, that forgiveness, all of it. We can't expect something to change in that dark environment. That dark environment is there for us to change and to step into the power of who we are. So, and the more, it's so true, the more we give, the greater we receive. And I really believe the crux of that part of this message has been really demonstrated to me in the fact that as I give and I tune in to that beautiful, compassionate, loving being in all aspects of my life, including the dark one, then what happens is I give and more of it is received. It really is. And I think it's received because I feel the worthiness to receive it because I'm giving it. So I hope that message is encouraging and inspiring for you on some level in whatever dark situation you may go into. I hope it brings you hope and light, because that's my desire to give to this world, but had to start in my own dark environment, which happened to be my family. So thanks for tuning in to this week's Thursday Night Thought, and I look forward to sharing our next Thursday Night Thought together.